In this Elden Ring Nightreign video, I'm going to be showing you guys my Guardian build, how I play Guardian. I'm going to be giving you guys some tips on how to select weapons, what to prioritize, what relics are really good on Guardian from my experience. And people seem to really like the run-through we did on Wilder, kind of showcasing why I'm making what decisions to help you guys better make decisions about what you're doing in combat. This run, I will warn you, is a bit rougher than the last one with Wilder. It was, we have a random in our group, it's Specs and I and a random, and that random does whatever it wants to do. But we still managed to pull the run out, so it's always good to showcase sometimes, when that happens, because that does happen sometimes with what you do in those circumstances. But first, let's get into the tips. So the first thing I want to talk about with Guardian is his starting shield. I'm not going to talk about the mechanics of the shield or how to do block counters or things like that. I've already covered these in a previous video, but I want to talk about this shield specifically. It's actually deceivingly better than you would first think. It has 60 guard boost by default, which is not as good as some shields you can pick up. But it does come with no skill, which is great because that allows you to use your weapon skill and not have to two-hand. You can use this while still having a shield in your offhand. If you upgrade this with a regular blue smithing stone, which I do in my run, it goes up to 70 guard boost, which is even better. And then if you upgrade it with a purple stone, it goes up to like 79 or 80 guard boost, which is about the same guard boost that most purple shields have that are great shields. So you're in the range. Like, it may not be top of the line, but considering that you don't have to go find it, it has no skill, which is most of the time what you want on your great shield. And it is also a great shield, which means it has the highest hardness compared to medium and small shields. So a lot of attacks rebuff off of it. It's definitely worth considering keeping this shield and upgrading it and not just throwing it away for some medium shield that's got like 70 guard boost as soon as you pick it up. It's not very hard to find a merchant and upgrade this shield by buying a smithing stone for like 6,500 runes. This is not hard to do at all, and in that case, you're like in business right away. Now, obviously, the downside of using this shield, if you're going to upgrade it to purple, is that if you don't find a purple weapon and you have a blue weapon, then you won't be able to upgrade it to purple unless someone else gives you a smithing stone, so you kind of sacrifice damage for that if you want to do that. Or you could just stay with a blue shield and upgrade your weapon to purple and do a little bit more damage. It's up to you. I like the guard boost a little bit more personally, but it's not like there's a wrong way as long as you aren't being guard broken constantly. So talking about weapon selection priorities, I did the same for Wilder. It's kind of similar, but it's a little bit different. The first thing, again, is does the weapon have Scarlet Rot? Scarlet Rot always takes priority in my queue of weapons. If you find a weapon that has Scarlet Rot, grab that. The next thing I look for is, can I block an attack with this weapon at the same time? If you didn't know, if you're using a shield, certain weapon types in this game allow you to hold block and attack, so if an incoming attack hits your shield, then you don't take damage. You can also do this while in Steel Guard stance in order to take even less damage while you're blocking and attacking. The weapon types that allow you to do this are thrusting swords, heavy thrusting swords, spears, great spears, and halberds, of course. And you typically get these weapons more often than other weapons anyway. But if you get like a hammer or a straight sword or a great sword, you won't be able to block an attack sometimes, and sometimes it can save your bacon. So I tend to prioritize these types of weapons over others. Obviously not if they have Scarlet Rot, but I generally speaking will prioritize something I can block and attack with. The next thing I look out for is, what is the weapon skill? Sometimes weapons have fantastic weapon skills. As you saw in the Wilder video, the weapon skills were absolutely devastating against the last boss. And in that case, even if it's not one of the weapon types that I just mentioned, if the weapon skill is really, really strong, then I might prioritize it depending on how strong it is. So these two are kind of tied. Like, if the weapon skill is better, then I might take the weapon skill over the one that I can block with, but a lot of times it's not. Next, I take a look at is the element needed that matches the final boss we're facing. Is it a fire weak boss and the weapon does fire damage? Is it a lightning weak boss and we need lightning damage, etc.? Check that next. And then lastly, what is the passive effect? The passive effects you're really looking for on Guardian are typically guarding ability. That will improve how much guard boost you have on any shield you're equipping. It doesn't have to be in your hand to get that bonus, so it should just be in your inventory. And you'll notice immediately once equipping that in one of your slots that your guard boost on all your shields will improve if you can find that. Other ones are good that are like damage negation when you are like after you block or after you get hit, so that you just take less damage if you're like getting hit by a boss repeatedly. Those can help you. Anything that helps with guarding or reducing the damage you take is what you're looking for in terms of passive effects. Obviously, if you get something that gives you like glint blades or something when you have your shield out or a weapon equipped, that's also really, really strong, but it's pretty rare. So taking a quick look at relics and what relics are good, the character skill duration is really, really strong in my opinion. This allows you to make your whirlwind last a number of seconds. It does about double the damage over the whole duration that the regular version of this does, but it juggles a lot of humanoid enemies for like an extended period of time, or if you get under a big enemy, it'll hit it while you're moving it around. It's just a really, really strong skill and a really strong relic when you upgrade it. It's one I would recommend on pretty much every Guardian. I also really like damage reflective when using a skill. This means that when you're in Steel Guard's stance and you're blocking, you're going to reflect damage. Why I like this is, one, it helps you deal damage to the boss even when you're blocking, which sometimes you have very few opportunities. And the damage is actually surprisingly good. It's like, I don't know, 70 to 80 or something like that. It's about 60 to 70% of what a normal attack's going to do for you anyway, maybe even more than that. Additionally, it does some stance damage when it hits, does it in an AoE, and you can actually res a teammate if a boss or enemy attacks into this and you deal damage and they're down right next to you, which I can actually see in this video that actually happens. And that is amazing when that happens, because that means that you can sit there and block and slowly res your teammate. I also like character skill cooldown on Whirlwind, so I can use it more. I like ultimate art when defeating enemies, just like I had on Wilder. This allows you to use your ultimate more often. I find I use Guardian's ultimate less than Wilder's because it's more situational. You usually want to use it when there are a lot of enemies on the screen, or when you need to heal your allies if you hold it and they stay inside if you have the relic that heals them. When using the ultimate art, which I have here, it will heal them up to full, which is nice, or yourself. I use that in one case in our run where I'm like really low on health and I just use it to heal myself really quickly without having to like worry about getting hit or taking a blast. The relic that gives you health back after taking damage if you attack is good, especially if you're like turtling with a shield and you're getting some chip damage and you're poking, you can just heal back the health you're taking a lot of the times. Or getting health recovery when blocking is good, or getting ultimate art back when blocking is also good. It's about the same or a little bit less than a regular attack that you get when blocking with that relic, and it can just help fill up your ultimate gauge more. But I find that defeating enemies is better generally, except for maybe like the last boss fight. Okay, getting into the run itself, it's Fex and I. She's playing Recluse again. We get an Executor this time whose name is Wilder. He's a random player. I know that's a bit confusing, and we are fighting the Dark Drift Knight, which is arguably the hardest boss, or one of the hardest bosses in the game. And we also have the Crater event on the map. So we look at the map, we go ahead and pin the nearby fort. Since Fex is Recluse, we want to get her some spells, and then we wipe out the first group of enemies right in front of us very quickly, and then hit the nearest site of grace and level to level 2. On the way to the fort, I decided to use Whirlwind on a group of random enemies in order to charge up my ultimate, so I have it in the fort. I just cast it and then keep running, hoping it'll kill a couple of them, and I'll charge it up, which I do. Once inside the fort, I noticed that Wilder, actually Executor, is down, and I try and hit him with an attack, but it doesn't quite res him. I realize there's still some enemies around, so I just decided to ult anyway. I get ult back for defeating enemies with one of the relics I have, so I'm not really worried about wasting my ultimate. After defeating the boss, I either have a choice of Dagger, which is clearly not a weapon you want to use on Guardian, or a Thrusting Sword that has poison on it, so I take the Thrusting Sword. Then I quickly level up to level 3 and then head upward to help either get the key from the chest if there's a Stone Sword key in there, or get the clue from the room in order to reveal scarabs on the map, as you should always do in a fort. So then I quickly head over and chase a scarab, defeat it. It's got Kindred of Rot's Exaltation, which increases your attack power when there's poison or rot near you. I do have a poison sword, so this works out nicely. So then I meet up with Fex at the church there in order to try and get some more XP and maybe a better weapon than what I have. Our Executor decides that they're going to head to the church all the way over at the crater by themselves and just kind of wanders off for a while. And you can see when I get to the Mausoleum Knight that the Whirlwind, because it lasts for like 4 or 5 seconds, just keeps juggling the boss, preventing it from getting any sort of attacks off. So then I don't like either of my rewards that I can get there. I should have taken the Pest Glaive for the damage negation after taking damage, but I didn't read it thoroughly enough, and I just tried to move quickly since we were behind because we didn't have all 3 of us here. That was kind of a mistake I made there, criticizing my own gameplay, but that would have probably been good to pick up, at least for now. So then we head down to the Everjail. I quickly check if there is a scarab under the structure there. There is one there sometimes, but there isn't, and then we decide to take on the Everjail enemies. So we get a Godskin Apostle. The first thing I do is try and poke him rapidly in order to get poison set on him. Luckily, Thrusting Swords have fast attacks. And not long after that, you can see that I'm using Steel Guard, and I actually get a couple of Reflects on him for extra damage. And again, this can help keep aggro since you're dealing damage to the boss. And it can also help deal stance damage as enemy. And later in the fight, you'll notice that I actually stance break him with a reflection from my shield from that relic, and then I go in and get a crit strike, so that works out really well. So for rewards, my choice is Ruins or Flask slowly restores HP. Flask slowly restores HP is bad on just about everyone. I think Guardian might be the only character that you might actually take this on, because you could just regenerate HP as you fight, but a lot of times you need to heal in a pinch, and having slow HP is bad, so I just take the runes in order to get a level or two. On the way, I stop and kill a couple of wolves with my ability, and it doesn't take very long to kill regular enemies with this ability, and even though my ultimate is already charged, keep in mind that your teammates might have the same relic that allows them to charge their art if anything dies, and again, they don't have to kill it themselves. So, you know, throwing one of these out really quickly on the way somewhere, if you can get 3 or 4 enemies grouped together, can help them out as well. So we decide to head to a nearby church in order to pick up a flask because we haven't gotten one yet and the ring is closing in. And our executor, from the looks of things, either got the church up above or decided not to get it and is making his way back towards us, so hopefully he rejoins the group soon. After getting the flask, I head to the nearby Frost Ruins, and luckily there are a couple of Albanarch arches up there that I hit both with my ultimate, and then I'm able to pull them both into my whirlwind, which sucks them in and they can't get out, and I'm able to cleave them both down basically very, very quickly, which is about the best this could possibly go for me. And I'm rewarded with my success with the option to pick up a Guardian Sword Spear that has Hoarfrost Stomp on it. Hoarfrost Stomp is an amazing skill in this game. It's much better than the base game in my opinion. You can set Frostbite very quickly. It gives the Guardian some AoE on top of the AoE that they already have, and you'll notice that I use this regularly throughout the rest of the fight, and it can also be used while turtling behind a shield, which I love too. So we decide to head to the encampment all the way to the south, and sometimes there are scarabs along the way, so I definitely do a sweep for them. I find one, and right as I'm about to pick it up, the executor shows up out of nowhere and swoops it up before either Fex and I can grab it, even though we haven't seen him for several minutes. I also noticed on the way to the encampment that there is a tree sentinel there, and tree sentinels are not hard bosses in terms of like the difficulty, but they are very tanky in this game, so we decide not to do it at the moment. Maybe after the camp, we'll see how much time we have. So once we get to the camp, it's a Leona Misbegotten, but by the time I get there, they've absolutely dominated this thing. I was going to ultimate, but I don't need to, so instead I just decided to try and help out with some Hoarfrost Stomps. So my choices here are another Omen Cleaver, which is not something I prioritize, a Gargoyle's Halberd that's got Holy. If this was a Holy boss, I might have taken it there, but we're facing a Lightning Weak boss. So I take the stamina increase because you can never have enough stamina on Guardian. Next, we make our way to a church that's just on the edge of the ring in order to get a second flask, and then we head north up to the Lightning Ruins in order to try and get a lightning weapon for the boss. Once we get up to the bosses, I ult really quickly, land on top of them, then use Whirlwind, and we quickly dispatch them. We then clean up a few more enemies using Hoarfrost Stomp before we check out the rewards. The game decides it's absolutely trolling me by giving me a lightning bow, which you don't know how many times I've played as Iron Knight and never seen one, but obviously not going to be using a bow. Highland Axe isn't that great, so I decide to take more runes from defeated enemies. After this, Fex and I decide to run to a nearby great church to take it on and see if we can get some better weapons. It looks like our executor got a lightning weapon that he wants to upgrade, so he heads to the mine in order to get a smithing stone too. So after defeating the golem, the game decides to give me another lightning bow, keeps trolling me, or a regular medium shield that has better guard boost than my shield but has a weapon skill on it that I don't really like, and its passive is not particularly good as I'm not using a lot of charged attacks, so I just pass on both of them. So from here we decide to head to the mine in order to get a smithing stone. We know the executor has already killed the guy inside, so when we get there we only need to run in and run out. It's a good thing too, because we end up inside the Nightreign for a little while. and we're able to just get outside of it very, very quickly, hit the side of Gray's heal up before continuing onward. We decide not to fight the Tree Sentinel as we make our way to the end of day boss. So at the end of day area, we kill a couple enemies really quickly. I use Whirlwind again since there's a lot of little ones, and then we face the Royal Revenant. I put Frostbite on it almost instantly using a couple Hoarfrost Stomps. A ways into this fight, I decided to use my ultimate of holding down R2 in order to create an area that heals allies inside and protects them. I thought maybe the projectiles would be hitting players, and that way they wouldn't have to dodge out of them and can keep attacking. So for my end of day reward, my choices are Blood Loss and Vicinity increases attack power, critical hits restore health, or successive attacks restore HP. None of these are particularly great for Guardian, but the Blood Loss attack power one is not bad because we have an Executor who's going to be triggering Blood Loss a lot, so I decided to pick up that one. So at the start of day 2, there was a little bit of debate whether we should go down and kill the Tree Sentinel or we should go up to the middle and then go down to the crater. If we had gone and fought the Tree Sentinel, I think we wouldn't have had enough time in the crater, so I think it's smart that we went to the middle. We end up agreeing to go to the middle, so we head there. On the way to the middle, we stop at a merchant, and I was going to buy a smithing stone in order to upgrade my shield to blue to get some more guard boost out of it, but I noticed that there's a golden great shield for sale with just a little bit more than the stone. Has a little bit better guard boost than my shield would have, so I decided to pick it up. It also has reduced spell FP cost, which isn't particularly great for me, but, you know, if I did pick up some sort of spell that could buff me, like Golden Vow or something like that, it wouldn't be bad to have that on it, so I just grabbed that real quick. So we run in the middle. It's the Leonin Misbegotten, which is not a terrible boss to have, but he does hit really, really hard. I managed to get Frostbite on him with a couple Hoarfrost Stomps, and he rebuffs off my shield a couple times. But then, unfortunately, he aggroes on effects and looks like he one-shots her and she goes down. And then he hits me really, really hard, and I was afraid of dying, so I backed away, but I got a Whirlwind off that allowed effects to not bleed out in the meantime while I'm fighting him. You'll notice that I managed to back over her and get into Steel Guard stance, and then when he hits me, the damage reflection from that actually picks her up off the ground. Again, Executor is nowhere to be seen, making this fight harder than it should be. So finally, Executor shows up, and we down the Misbegotten very, very quickly. My options are not particularly great. We have a pulley crossbow, which could give me some range in a situation I need, a poison butchering knife, which, you know, I can't block and attack with at the same time, so it's not especially great, or improved dodging. I don't really dodge much as Guardian, so that's not particularly great. Probably should have given the pulley crossbow effects in order to help reduce her spell FP cost, but I was a little greedy and decided to keep it for myself. As we run upstairs in order to get the guaranteed talisman from the chest there, I usually open the door on the way to the chest to save time. You'll notice that the lion is already aggroed outside from Executor, so we have to deal with the lion quickly before we're actually able to loot. So from the lion, I'm able to take the Troll Knight's sword, which has Cragblade on it and continuous HP recovery, which is honestly not bad, although I can't turtle behind the shield and use it. or I can just take stamina recovery. I opt for stamina recovery because that just benefits Guardian in every possible way. And then for my talisman, I really don't have a lot of good choices. I do some critical hits, so the dagger talisman is not bad. We don't have an archer. No one's using a bow, so that's not good. If there was an archer, I would have taken that and given that to them. So I decided to take the boost magical damage negation because there really isn't a better option. After that, we head outside in order to kill some more enemies guarding one of the good chests out there to see if there's anything in it. I just AoE with my ultimate and whirlwind really quickly. Fortunately, it was a Cypher Pata, which is not particularly great for any of us, but still not a bad weapon nonetheless. You'll then see me go toe-to-toe with the Banished Knight, and I can't for the life of me figure out how he didn't get stance broken for all my block counters. But something that you'll notice that I'm doing here is that right before he attacks, I'm holding block and I'm dodging into the attack to get into Steel Guard so that he takes less stamina off. This is something you should get in the habit of doing, particularly when you are soloing something like you're tanking a boss, or if you're one-on-one with a tough enemy, is dodging into the attack while you're holding block. That will get you into Steel Guard quickly, and then letting go if they rebuff off and getting your stamina to recover before repeating this. So after defeating those guys, there's a little bit of deliberation between Fex and I as to whether we should keep killing the Banished Knights for more XP or if we're going to head to the crater. We decide to go to the crater, and if we're going to go, now is the time. We cannot wait any longer, so we start heading north. On the way, I decide to take out another Scarab that I notice, and it's Bolt Drake Talisman, which boosts lightning damage negation. I'm not really sure if the Dark Drift Knight does lightning damage or magic damage or some combination. I decide it's probably lightning damage, so I switch my magic damage negation for that. I keep the Kindred of Rot Talisman because I do have poison, and I'm expecting that the Executor might also have poison. We then decide to run by the Blackblade Kindred. I never fight those if possible. They just take too long, and we start making our way down into the crater. We run into the first boss, and I think we probably should have killed this guy if we could have, but we were running shorter on time, and because they both had already dropped down, I didn't want to sit there and try and solo it, so I just followed them down. So for a few seconds, we're trying to remember where to go. It's been a while since I've been in the crater. I don't think I've had this event since like day 1 or day 2 of this game's launch, since usually it's new players that have it still. The events haven't been showing up in the games for some reason. Then I decide to ult on top of a Black Monk and use Whirlwind, thinking that it's maybe a boss because it is in the churches, but it's not, so that was a little bit of a waste of time. Probably should have just run by those guys. Then the boss, of course, is right around the corner. Luckily, I have Hoarfrost Stomp, which is a great skill to have in this area. Everything is probably resistant to fire, but I have, like, magic and cold. So this is really, really good, and we end up taking this boss down very quickly. Well, my choices after defeating that boss were pretty poor. I'm not using incantations or sorceries, and guard breaking isn't that useful, so I decided to take it because they still have my beginner shield, which has no bonus on it, but it doesn't really do much for me, and I'm not going to be using a fire weapon down here. So we get to the next boss. There are 2 fire monks along with it. I ult really quickly to knock the 2 monks down, get some AoE damage, and throw up Whirlwind on the main boss in order to keep some persistent damage on him. I then Hoarfrost Stomp a couple of times in order to help take down the boss. I run out of FP, so unfortunately I can't use it anymore, and then I help clean up the fire monks. So after defeating them, my choices are an axe with fire damage, a crossbow, which I already have one of, and more stamina, and of course I take more stamina. And very shortly after that, I just yeet myself off a cliff because I was not paying attention. Luckily, though, it spawned me right by the site of grace, and my runes were right there, so I'm able to pick them up and just level up really quickly. So we continue to make our way down past the Roly Flamey guys. I don't know what their actual names are. And we decided to just run by them for the sake of time, but unfortunately Fex gets rammed by one and gets knocked off into the lava. So eventually we get down past the hands and everything and get down to the magma worm, and this is great because I have Hoarfrost Stomp and Cold, which are going to be great against this boss. So after defeating them, my choices are an axe with fire damage, a crossbow, which I already have one of, and more stamina, and of course I take more stamina. So we continue to make our way down past the Roly Flamey guys. I don't know what their actual names are. And we decided to just run by them for the sake of time, but unfortunately Fex gets rammed by one and gets knocked off into the lava. So eventually we get down past the hands and everything and get down to the magma worm, and this is great because I have Hoarfrost Stomp and Cold, which are going to be great against this boss. So not long after engaging the magma worm, our executor, named Wilder, goes down, and I just decide to ultimate real quick and pick him up. The Hoarfrost Stomp is not reaching him or working on him for some reason, and I don't want to mess around with it. Vex is still trailing a little bit behind because she's got to catch up, so I just pick him up real quick with my ult. Not long after that, Vex shows up and our Executor goes down again. My attacks are whiffing over his head, but eventually we're able to get him up and get back in the fight. Eventually we get the stagger and I get a crit. Not long after that, my ult is up and I decide to hold it down in order to create a space that protects our teammates from damage completely for 5 seconds and also heals us. There's like a lot of lava potential on the ground with this boss, and that can just make it so your team can stand in there and not get damaged by it or his large tail swipes. Of course, in this case, the invulnerability ends just the second before he does a swipe, and I get hit for damage anyway. So for rewards, this is an easy one. Dragon Halberd is the choice here. This weapon has a special spinning slash that buffs your weapon with Ice Lightning, and Ice Lightning allows you to inflict frostbite and adds lightning to your weapon attacks. And also the spinning slash deals damage. Since we're facing a boss that's weak to lightning and needs to be interrupted with lightning attacks, this is what I've been waiting for, and I take this happily. We then get to upgrade one weapon to legendary from our choice. My two choices here are effectively, do I upgrade the Dragon Halberd to gold for more damage, or do I upgrade my shield for more guard boost? I opted for more damage. Guardian is a bit weaker in the damage department, and I can also use my purple smithing stone to upgrade my shield. So I wanted to be able to contribute more damage during the boss fight, so that's the route I decided to go. We then take the wind, hightailing it out of there as the Nightreign starts coming in, and we have just enough time to kill the Demi-Human Queen over here. Go ahead and run in and use my Whirlwind quickly to get some damage on her and any enemies that might be near her. And then I go ahead and use Spinning Slash a couple of times to try and finish her off quickly, even though I'm not going to have as much FP for the next boss fight. Really didn't have too many good choices after defeating her. I'm not going to take Claws on a Guardian. I don't need a Fire Halberd. I have the weapon I need, so I just take Improved Infinity Attack Power to get some more damage. And after we defeat her, we actually made such good time killing her, we can get over to the nearby church and get the flask there. Our Executor has this already, but Vex and I don't, so we run over and pick it up before heading to the boss area. So the end of day boss is a Nox Dragonkin soldier. These things have a lot of health. I buff with Spinning Slash quickly, and then I start attacking the boss. You'll notice I'm not really using Hoarfrost Stomp anymore at this point. I'm just trying to deal as much damage to this thing as I possibly can. Hoarfrost Stomp probably would have been good here, but for some reason, because I have a gold weapon, I didn't think to use it. The damage probably came out about the same, all things considered. But I'm playing a lot more aggressively because I have lots of healing potions. This boss has a huge health pool. It's not always aggroed onto me. It likes to kind of go wherever it's going. So I am blocking when I see an attack coming my way, but the rest of the time I'm just swinging away, trying to deal as much damage as possible. So before the last boss, I upgrade my level one more time. I buy a bunch of useful stuff. I get Feck some shards because she's going to need some. I contemplate keeping one in order to be able to rebuff my weapon throughout this fight to keep interrupting the boss, but it isn't that it lasts like a good 30 seconds or so, so I don't think I'm going to need it, so I decided to give her both the shards because I think she'll use them more than me. Additionally, our Executor has a Dragon King's Cragblade, which is also lightning, so we should be fine. So the first thing I do when I get in the fight is use Spinning Slash in order to buff my weapon with Ice Lightning. That way I can help with interrupts. And then I try and go on the defensive, tanking him as best I can. Unfortunately with this boss, some of his attacks can go like over your shield or from the side and still hit you anyway if you're blocking. So it can be very difficult sometimes to block against this boss, and sometimes having some spacing rather than being right up on him is better. And note how much that I hold block and attack in this fight. That's because he can be kind of erratic, and I'm never sure exactly what he's going to do. And if you're not holding block and you're swinging away and he catches you mid-animation, you're going to take a lot of damage. When he starts doing his charge attacks at about 80% health, you'll notice that Guardian has a really hard time getting away from this because he doesn't have a dodge roll like Wilder or Raider does or other classes. So the best thing you can do usually is unlock and just sprint dead sideways from the angle that he's coming, like at a 90-degree angle, and you can usually get out of the way. But I was thinking I could stay locked on and still get out of the way in time, but I can't, unfortunately, so I take a lot of damage here. Luckily, it doesn't kill me. I'm able to heal up and get back in the fight. So not long after that, our Executor goes down. Luckily, I'm right next to him, so I'm able to just pick him up really, really quickly. And then I'm trying to drop a Warming Stone down on the ground after I get hit, but unfortunately I take a hit at the perfectly wrong time. And luckily I'm able to heal up from it. I have such a huge health pool that I'm not dying a lot, even from like 2 hits. It's giving me time to actually heal up afterward. So after getting hit by all those attacks, you can see I'm playing a little bit more cautiously. I'm blocking a bit more and trying to attack and block at the same time so I don't get caught by a stray hit. It's causing me to miss some of my attacks, so a little bit of an over-adjustment, I think. Because of it, I lose aggro on him. Vex gets it, she goes down. Then I have to ult to pick her up off the ground. Our Executor Wilder goes down again not long after that, but luckily I'm right there and we're able to pick him up pretty quickly. However, picking him up causes us to miss the interrupt on the boss, so we take a lot of damage because of that. And then we conclude the fight not long after that, and you can see that I didn't play especially well in this fight. I missed a lot of blocks, but I didn't go down, so nobody had to like drop what they were doing to pick me up. I was able to pick up anybody that went down. I was able to get interrupts with lightning, so for the most part, I did what I had to do. It wasn't pretty, admittedly, but we weren't in danger really of losing there at the end, even though Wilder Executor was down. My ult was almost up again. Probably could have picked him up pretty quickly after that. And this is one of the things I really love about Guardian, is it allows for mistakes in runs. And Guardian is really good at fixing those mistakes. Whether your party is weak and you need to use your ultimate to heal up your group and prevent a lot of damage from happening to them, whether you need to get reses with it, or you just need the boss to stay on you so your teammates who maybe don't have as much experience can wail into a boss safely. This is really the fun of playing Guardian. I love playing Guardian with randoms. It's probably my favorite class to play with randoms. So that wraps up our Guardian video. Our next one is going to be Iron Eye. I hope you got something out of this one as well. Again, if you have other tips about Guardian, maybe things I forgot to mention, or maybe something you saw in my run that I didn't do that I should have done, or vice versa, or if you have questions about Guardian, something you saw in the run you don't understand, let me know in the comments below.